What's up, guys? Dr. Mo here, digital nomad physician at digitalnomadphysician.com. Still in Madrid. You guys can hear all the background noise. So this is Rastro. It's a Sunday market, and this apartment that my girlfriend found is in the middle of it. So there's a big main street here going along that way, and there's one going this way, and it's sort of like all around. They set up booths, and they sell kind of like a lot of used stuff. It's pretty cool. You find some really unique things and at really good prices from what I saw, the little bit that I looked around, but it's pretty crazy. It's pretty hectic. If you go early in the morning, it's not that bad, and later in the day, it kind of dies down. So that's probably the best time to visit. And then there's street performers, music performers. I haven't seen them, I've heard them. I just see the big crowds over there. It's like an ocean of people to walk through. So I thought I would record this particular video because I'm closing on my condo in Long Beach, the condo purchase. And this is a bit of a video again to help physicians who are trying to buy property, who are like, I need a place to live. I think investing in real estate is important. And especially for those of you who are digital nomads who might be living abroad and you maybe come across an opportunity and you want to buy something. Is it smart? Is it safe? How do you do it? How do you buy from abroad? And that's sort of what this video is going to be about. How to do it. Is it smart? Is it safe? All that sort of stuff. So just to start it out, again, really just to go back to the basics, I want to say, if you're a physician and you believe that you need to live on Pill Hill and spend $1.5 million for a house, I don't think that's accurate. And I think it will take you far away from the passion that you have for medicine, because you're going to be dependent on the income from medicine to live that particular lifestyle. I mean, you look at $1 million house, even if you somehow can manage 20% down, which most physicians can't, they end up coming in with 5%, 0%, 10% down. So even if you put $100,000 down and you want to finance $900,000, that's an insane amount of money. You can always do the math. Like right now, interest rates are close to 7% as of, November 2022. So you're looking at about, $500, $600 for every $100,000 that you're financing. That comes out to quite a bit of money. And once you add that all up, it gets crazy. And you're going to have to do that for 30 years of making those kind of payments. It wears you out. And those first 2, 3, 4, 5 years when you really love the house, it's all great. But as you know, if you've never purchased a house, everybody believes that it's their dream home until they have to maintain it, until they live there long enough. It's no longer a dream home. For most people, it becomes a liability. It's no longer an asset. And they're like, this went wrong and that went wrong and these neighbors moved in. You might think that if you're there and you're buying it in person, you can decide exactly which neighbors you're going to have, and like, this is a perfect neighborhood and it's this and it's that. But things change. Things change very quickly. Laws change, rules change, and your neighbors change. So just starting out broadly, I don't think you need to spend all that much. Now, this particular condo that I was interested in something under $500,000, and I was going to buy it cash if it was around $300,000, or I was going to finance it if it was $500,000. The downside was that the mortgage company that I was going with, the bank, wanted a minimum 50% down if I was going to buy a $500,000 property. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's not worth it. Interest rates hadn't gone up right around the time when I looked, and my stocks had crashed. So I had to sell off a lot to get a little bit, and I didn't want to do that. So I only ended up selling about $150,000 worth of my stock just to get $100,000 in cash, leave about $50,000 for any renovations or emergency stuff that I needed to have. And so I paid $100,000 down for a unit that was listed for $330 in Long Beach or $350 in Long Beach, and we kind of negotiated it down. I came up from $290, and we finally agreed somewhere around $310,000. With all said and done, it's probably going to be about $320,000 with closing costs and fees and mortgage fees and everything, and all the money that I spent to get notary and stuff, which we'll get into in a minute. So for for definitely under 500,000, but for under 350,000, I was able to purchase a single one-bedroom apartment in Long Beach in a safe neighborhood, in a good neighborhood. It is by far not a great neighborhood. So if I were to, for me, if I were to look at the way properties are, you know, I find like there is like a, you know, super desirable level 1 home, then there's like a level 2 home, and then there's a level 3 home. Level 3 home is the kind of place where you're gonna find people of very low means, usually a lot of people hanging out around the property, kind of feels unsafe, often a lot of pests, dirty, smells, etc., loud. And then kind of like that's the level 3. Level 2 property is probably something where most people would be comfortable living, but it is by far not their ideal place. And then level 1 is your ideal place, the place you dream of living. Yeah, so obviously I've never purchased a level 1 home. Actually, no, I did. I purchased level 1 homes. For me at the time, level 1 homes, I purchased one in San Diego, and I ended up selling it, and I purchased another one in Little Italy in San Diego, and I ended up selling that. But I think I'm realizing that a place that is comfortable, safe, that I can stay in is more than enough for me at this time. I'm 44 years old. I still kind of have a bit of my career ahead of me, but I really want a place that I have as a base in Los Angeles. It's still easy commute. Now, this place does not have air conditioning. This place does not have parking. This place does not have a washer dryer in the unit. So there's a lot of factors here, right? It has a washer dryer unit downstairs, so I can always use that. Parking, there's street parking usually, and air conditioner, I can add a central air for about, or split, I should say, a split system for about $3,000. Now, I never saw this place. I haven't yet seen a place. So the reason I wanted to record this video is to just give you an idea in case you are thinking about doing this. You're like, I don't really want to go in person and see this and go drive around and go with a contractor and go with a realtor. It's a headache, especially if you do it with a partner and then your partner has input and it can get really complicated. For me, my criteria were simple. I had purchased other apartments before, single, I mean like 1-bedroom apartments before, so I knew what that was like, whether studio or 1-bedroom apartment. I wanted a place, kind of like an Airbnb or a hotel. I can come there, it's not gonna be ideal, it's not gonna be perfect, but I'm gonna be safe, I'm gonna be comfortable, and I can feel at home until I leave again, right? So this unit met all those criteria for me. In order to be able to feel comfortable, you need a good realtor. And the way you find a good realtor, I think, is word of mouth. That's number 1. Number 2 is the reviews that they have. And so I used a little bit of both and found somebody from LinkedIn. This person was well rated. He had really good reviews, and I reached out to him and we did a video call. And I think video call is important because you get somebody's demeanor. He was really nice, he was really kind. His name is Darren, and just like very friendly, you know, kind of like me, shaved head. And we just immediately clicked. He lives in Long Beach. He sells primarily in Long Beach, which I think is really important to me, to be in that particular neighborhood. And he gave me some really good ideas. I told him, I'm like, hey, look, I'm looking for something 300 cash or 500,000. He's like, I think you're in a good price range. I don't think that's crazy, which is good because most of the realtors I've had experience with, whatever price you say, often their immediate reply is, that's a little bit low. Of course it is. I could say $1 million, they'd say, that's a little bit low. You could say $2 million, like, that's a little bit low. So for 300,000, he's like, you know what, I'm gonna send you some units. Let me send you both of what you like, and I'll disperse in there some units that I think are worth considering. Now, when I began this search, I told him that I wasn't going to be in LA until November. I think this was August when I began to search with him, and right now it's November. End of November, I'll be in LA. I think as I'm recording this video, it's like November 5th or 6th or something. And so in August, we communicated, we exchanged some information, and he's like, I'm gonna send you some stuff a little bit closer to the date so you can come in and look at them when you get there. I sent him a message back and I said, that's fine, but just wanna let you know that if there is a really good opportunity, I don't really wanna miss out on that, so I'm willing to purchase it with sight unseen. Again, that's something that many realtors are uncomfortable with. But fortunately, Darren had bought a place sight unseen, well, for him unseen, and he it turned out good for him. And of course, obviously, there are many real estate investors who purchase properties without ever seeing it. So this is not anything new. I'm not doing something that nobody's ever done before. But of course, it can seem that way to a lot of people. So after some communication, he actually sent me, I want to say 5 or 6 units to take a look at. And immediately, for me, 2 units stood out. Actually, to be honest, only 1 unit stood out to me. This one was on the market for a long time. This is the one that I'm closing on. And the other one, which was a little under $500,000, and it was pretty fresh on the market. And so we put offers for both. And while the offers were kind of pending, I had my girlfriend's sister walk through both properties just to take a look at it and to give us some ideas. But we basically had this sort of inside connection with this first unit. We knew it was on the market for a long time. My realtor knew who was the realtor for that unit. So there was a bit of an inside connection. We were fairly confident that we could get a really good deal on this first one, especially because it was listed high and it wasn't selling. And it's a bit more complicated. The unit was like a co-op, and it was turned into a condo and apartments, and it's mostly rentals. It's really difficult to get a mortgage on it. And so for me, coming in cash was kind of critical, was kind of a good thing. So I put most of my energy into that. I honestly, even though I put some offers onto the other one, I don't think the seller was really motivated, so I didn't want to waste my time, and I pretty quickly dropped that. And then we focused on this one. So the great thing is when you work with somebody who has a good team already, everything goes smoother. So my realtor had a good, he introduced me to 2 bankers who were going to be, well, mortgage brokers who were going to be my mortgage people, and an escrow company that he always works with. Now, fortunately, the escrow company, private, really nice. They communicated really well for the most part. I would say, everything was spot on. And the first person I went with for the mortgage, he was sort of wishy-washy, and he was like, "Yeah, just send me all this information." And then it was like, I don't know, it just didn't go well. And I was like, this is frustrating. And I caught myself, I'm like, oh, this is frustrating. That means it's always going to be frustrating with this guy. So then I had a second mortgage person, but my realtor was worried that she wasn't going to be able to pull through because of this kind of, the way this property was. We didn't think we could get lending. She's like, I'm sure I can get you a conventional loan. If nothing else, I'll get you a non-conventional. And I always knew I was going to come in cash if worst case scenario. And it looks like all said and done, she was definitely the perfect person to go with. Communicated really well. Send me your bank accounts, send me your statements, send me your investments, send me your retirement, send me your job, how much money you make, income, blah, 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 blah. And as you guys know, I make most of my money as an independent contractor. I have my own business, so the money that I make is obviously variable. It's very, very, very variable. So that is very problematic for the banks because they want somebody who has a W-2 income, very steady, and they know they have a contract, etc. But again, very fortunate that she was able to do it, and this was a cheaper unit, and I think that certainly helped me. So the main thing that I did, and I think the main thing that helped me a lot, is my realtor was able to do a walkthrough multiple times in this property. He walked through the unit when there were renters there. He walked through the unit when the renters had just moved out. He walked through the unit after the unit was cleaned. He walked through the unit after some small changes, some renovations were made to the unit by the seller. And constantly he was sending me videos and photos, and he always asked me if you want to check it out live. He was going to be available. So that was really valuable for him to do so many walkthroughs. A couple of concerns that I had: is it going to be loud inside? Because there's a lot of traffic on the main street over there. Were the neighbors going to be okay? Were the neighbors going to be bothersome? Was it safe to walk around in that neighborhood? And so some of that stuff, again, is something that is very personal to each one of us. And so having family members walk through the place, having friends walk through the place, walk through the neighborhood, drive through the neighborhood, and like, what's it like? Is there parking? You can have your friends do that. You can have your significant other, if they're in town, or your family, your friends, your parents, anybody, just drive through there and see if there is parking. Walk through there at night, walk through there in the morning, walk through there in the middle of the day. What's the noise level like, etc. So I think that's a good way to sort of gauge that, and that's kind of what I did. And so far it's worked out good. Now there were no major hiccups. The only thing I'm going to say, if you're buying from abroad and you're in another country, the main issue is going to be who's going to actually do the wet signature. So one thing that I needed to do is send one wet signature, so I had to FedEx that over. It cost me almost $100 to FedEx one piece of paper from here in Madrid to Los Angeles. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, but that's how much it cost. And so I had to print that document, wet sign it, send it back. And then the other thing that I needed to do, the actual escrow documents, which is the deed of trust, the bank mortgage statement, some power of attorney for them to do some other stuff, whatever, 4 documents. I had to take that to a notary, right? So I can't take it to, there's 2 options. So you can take it to a notary, then you can get it apostilled the Hague or whatever, or you can get it notarized by the U.S. consulate. Now the U.S. consulate here in Madrid, fully booked, so that's why we flew to Morocco, and we did everything there, which was great. You know, me and my girlfriend had a great time, even though it was a little hectic and exhausting. It was nice to go to Morocco and get everything signed over there. And then I shipped it from Morocco. Took about 3 days. Always takes about 2 to 3 days. With this time I sent it with DHL. It cost me another $100 to send a pretty thick stack of 99 pages of documents. And then there was some problems. Apparently the consulate lady who notarized it didn't do some things correctly. She didn't put her middle initial in there. She stapled 2 documents together incorrectly. And so that was a bit of an issue. But it got sent back to Los Angeles. Now, if I had a power of attorney, so if I had my best friend be my power of attorney, then he or she could have just signed for me, which would have made it really, really easy. They just drive over, sign, boom, done. Or they can just do it at a notary themselves, right? So they could go to a notary, sign it on my behalf, and we're good to go. So I think that's one recommendation. If you have somebody you trust, have a power of attorney, especially if you're going to be abroad. So the 3 entities that you're going to be dealing with is often the mortgage company, if you're going to get a mortgage. If you're not, nothing. If you're buying cash, it's not an issue. I always recommend buying cash. Honestly, I would have bought cash, but it was important to me to not give up all my cash right now, because I can always put my cash in and purchase this finally. That's not a big deal, but I think having this bit of a I want to keep some of my cash in case I do want to purchase property somewhere else. I think that's always one of my things. Or if I want to put a down payment on another house somewhere else, I don't know. But mortgage company, and you got the escrow company, and you pretty much got your realtor that you're dealing with. Those are kind of the 3 main entities. And so as long as they're trustworthy, good reputation and stuff like that, everything is going to go smoothly. Most of them are going to email back and forth with each other. What I did regularly is I always send my realtor was really on top of it, because obviously it benefits him as well. So I always send him a voicemail on WhatsApp pretty much daily. This is what I did. I just signed a document. This is what I did. This is what I did. And it was great, because sometimes I missed something completely, and he's like, no, dude, you got to transfer the money to the bank right now. Like, you can't wait. So for example, a couple of issues that came up is I thought I could transfer money from my investments directly to their escrow to wire money, because you can't do the ACH transfer. You have to do a wire transfer. And I couldn't. My brokerage account wouldn't let me, so I had to transfer money from my brokerage account to my bank account, which I had to wire, which was fine. So that only took like a day or 2. Once I wired the money to my bank account, then I could wire the money to the escrow account. So these are things to account for, especially when it comes to timing. Oftentimes it is timing. Oftentimes the timing becomes a big issue. You know, you got a 30-day escrow and you want to get things done quickly, otherwise one person's waiting for another one. And with so many parties involved, it really escalates quickly. So that's pretty much it. Again, I think the biggest fear people have is I'm going to buy something that's going to turn out to be a disaster. So fortunately, my friend walked through the property with a contractor, and so he was able to give me some really good feedback, like, hey, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed. Other than that, everything's good. My realtor walked through the property with inspector, and the inspector was really, really good. A private inspector, really good reviews online. So he told me everything that probably needed to be fixed, and any of the problems, like here's a little bit of termite damage, but that's because the wood, it was an old rotted window. He's like, that's expected. I don't think it's going to be anywhere else. Rooftop, you got to do this or this, and then some other basic stuff. So I think kind of having a sense of that, you get a really good sense of that by having some of these people talk to you directly after they did the inspection. The subtleties, I think the subtleties, like, I don't know, I haven't seen the place. I'm in Madrid. That place is in Long Beach. I haven't seen the place. For me, I think what's going to be, it's going to be the feel. What's the feel of the place when I walk up those stairs and I close the door behind me? Am I going to feel suffocated? Is my neighbor's my neighbor blasting music, is that going to come through and is going to be really obnoxious? I think those are the things that you never know until you actually go in. Now, oftentimes, if you go in, those things may not be happening, so you might feel like a false sense of security. If you read a lot of the Reddit forums on real estate, you'll hear people talk about major regrets. They bought the home, they realized how crazy noisy it gets on the weekends, or how unbelievably loud their neighbors can be at night. And those things you can't account for. Those things you're never going to be able to account for. I generally don't think anybody can account for those. I mean, if you're lucky, you might be able to go enough times that you get a sense for it. But I think it's just, for me, my practice in life right now is to just accept whatever the fuck is going on and just be okay with it. Are my neighbors super loud at night? I'll talk to them. If not, I'll put headphones on. Is the street super crazy, like on a Saturday morning, because all the, the motorcycle people are like revving their engines and just driving through? Great. On a Saturday morning, I'm out. I'm going to go drive to some other neighborhood. But to me, that is kind of the way to mitigate some of these issues. And again, I'm not telling you how to be, I'm just telling you that is the process that I use to purchase something. And for me, having a California state medical license and sort of wanting to be in this Southern California place because of my girlfriend and her family and of course, my own friends, it was a good purchase. It's a good price point for me to be in. $300,000 is not a bank killer. I think up to $500,000 probably would have been okay. The concern I have is that you can always go a little higher. I can start at $300,000 and it's like, that's the lowest end you're gonna ever get in Southern California, no doubt. It's like, oh, but a little bit more, 450, 500, you can get this, you can get a little bit more. Sure, but then where do you draw the line, right? How do you go from 450, why not 520? Because for 520, you also get two parking spaces and this and that, and like, oh look, for 600 now you got this huge patio. Oh, but only 750 and you get this little mini backyard. So I think you got to be able to draw the line, because for all these expenses as they go up, your property tax goes up, your HOA goes up, the amount of maintenance you have to do goes up, the space is bigger, there's more furniture to put in there. My goal is to do most of the renovation in this place myself. I feel pretty comfortable doing that. If not, hopefully for under $15,000, I can get most of the renovation done. And then it's a matter of putting some furniture in. Usually that's going to cost you about $10K. I mean, you think it's not, it will. By the time you buy the carpets and the rugs and the accessories and change the fridge and change the stovetop and everything, it's probably going to set you back about $10K. So that's kind of like my spending mindset of this place. Now, I also have a backup. Right? When I purchase a place, I always think initially, is this a good investment as opposed to, is this my dream home? If it's a good investment, then it should be rentable. What are the rent comps? Right now, this place will easily rent for about $1,700, $1,800, probably close to $2,000 a month. And if I want to rent it, let's say furnished to, doctors and nurses, like all those different websites that are available, probably could do it for about $2,500 a month. If I want to do Airbnb, probably could do it about, apparently we could do it for $5,000 a month, looking at what the crazy prices are on Airbnbs. But on a month-to-month basis, probably like, $4,000 or $5,000 a month, $4,000 a month. So I always know that this place, worst case scenario, I turn it into rental income property. Ideally, hopefully, me and my girlfriend are gonna live there and not kill each other. That's the plan. So that's it. That's a bit of information about this property. I'm excited. So today is a Sunday. Tomorrow the bank is, so I gave my down payment, so tomorrow the bank is gonna fund the escrow with their loan amount. And on Tuesday, we should be doing the signing. Well, I've done the signing, they're gonna do all the signing. And so on Tuesday, I should be getting the keys, and I'm still ahead of schedule because it's not till the following week on Monday when the escrow actually closes. So that's the plan. I will update you guys as things update.